And it's so common because so many of us grow up and at one point or another somebody said, shut up, you're not good enough, or stop singing, or, something in that range. And so what happened is, they took in that information and believed it, and then that's what really creates that blockage.
Another episode of the Freedom Culture Podcast. My name is Samantha Lotus, and I have the beautiful goddess Larisa Gosla with me. We just met each other this week, and yet there was such a resonance, and I have so much to learn from you and share with you. And so although I don't know all of your titles and all of your information right now, I know that there's a message that's coming through. And so I would actually love for you to introduce yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so happy to be here. This is brings me so much joy. And so I'm a professional musician, and I also do transformational vocal empowerment coaching. And I have a background in sound healing and hypnotherapy. So I take all of those pieces and weave them together in the transformational vocal empowerment programs to provide all the tools that are helpful for really discovering the voice.
Amazing. Okay, and who do you normally work with?
All different kinds of people. So people that are just beginning to learn how to sing and people that have been singing for a really long time. So just depending on what the goals and desires are for the voice, it really is a wide range of different people.
Okay, awesome. Well, that's so cool. Something that really struck me about you was when you sing, you see how it affects everyone, and it just touches the hearts of everyone, and people are really moved. It really has this energetic that just moves people in a way that I've never really seen. And it activated something within me when, we were sitting in a song circle, and you asked me to sing, and I had told you that it was my first time ever really singing. I had never sang before, and yet you stimulated something within me to actually freestyle for my first time. And it was so fascinating. And so I would just love to know, what is it that you do to bring people to a place that have maybe never sang or shared their voice or been able to move into that space? What is it that you do to empower them to do that?
Yeah, so a lot of it is really about getting out of the mind, and because it's that critical voice that stops people from really moving into their full expression. So it's just allowing people to take off their own chains that they have, because really the truth of it is that in any creative expression, people want to feel free. They want to feel liberated, and we all want to feel each other's hearts. So when we can really drop into that space, that's when the magic happens.
I love that. I love that you said that. That's something in my journey that I really experienced, is that I went through a chronic illness, and I had hypothyroidism, and I had Hashimoto's, and I never really knew how to share my voice. I felt like it wasn't safe. I felt like nobody would want to listen to what I had to say, or I was always being shut down. And so I never really learned to use my voice, and I see that in clinical practice with a lot of the women and men that I work with, is that there are so many blockages around speaking, let alone singing. And so what is it that you do, and how is it that you work to move some of that energy and allow people to step into that different a different way of being, where they feel comfortable and confident to be able to step into that and share their voice?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so common because so many of us grow up and at one point or another somebody said, shut up, you're not good enough, or stop singing, or, something in that range. And so what happened is, they took in that information and believed it, and then that's what really creates that blockage. So a lot of it is just learned behavior, because when we were indigenous cultures, everybody sang, everybody danced. It was a way of life. So it's really about coming back into connection with the voice as part of your instrument, as part of who you are, and in connection to your soul and how you can relate.
What does that mean? I'm hearing that, and I love it. I'm like, okay, I want to come into connection with my voice. I want to come into connection with my soul. And yet there's this anxiety that comes up of I speak a lot, and yet to sing or to express in a different way, I feel like there could be some blockages, or there's some hesitation there. And so what do you feel like that is? And again, how can you yeah, can you explain a little bit more about what you mean?
Absolutely. And it's different for everybody, but essentially, the voice, when we go into the work, if there's anything that's in our field or in our bodies, then it'll come up through the vocal practices. So if there's some worthiness issues or there's confidence issues in any part or piece of you, it'll reveal itself in the vocal exploration and vocal sharing. And so that's why, there's so much fear for so many people, because it's vulnerable.
Yeah.
Our throats are vulnerable, and it is an extension of our soul. And for years and years and years, so many of us chose to participate in a storyline where we were condemned or persecuted or felt like we needed to withhold information to protect. And so now we're in a space where we're really reclaiming that as a collective. And so it's really exciting because, our bodies and our voices, these are our sacred temples. So to have the ability to really have a deep, deep connection to it, to where you can show up in your full empowerment in that expression is where the beauty really is.
Wow, I love that you said that. It brings up something personally. As you know, running this mastermind, I've been holding a lot, and what I had experienced was digestive issues. And in a Reiki session, I felt my throat really closing up and my digestion kind of being off. And what came out was holding in your truth and not speaking and not sharing your emotions. And so the energy is being contaminated through containment in the stomach, and then getting blocked at the throat and not being to let out. And I heard, you hear that laughter is the best medicine, and singing is the healing and the medicine as well. And so what would be like your invitation to other people that experience actual physical manifestations of illness or repression? How can we move through that?
Absolutely. That's such a great question, and I love that you asked that. So there's a beautiful practice that I like to offer my clients, and it's called sounding. And so what this is it's really getting in tune with what's present for you in the moment and where you might feel heavy or stuck in the body, and dropping in to your breath and then emoting and emitting a sound of what's present for you. So say, for example, if I'm feeling something really good and I'm like, I feel this excitement, I feel this like bubbling up and it's in my belly and my chest, my sounding might emit something like this. Right? So, and you felt that, yes?
Wow, you blasted me with like liberation. That's what it sounded like. I felt like, ooh.
Beautiful.
And there was I felt a little bit shy as well. Mm-hmm. That's so interesting. I felt a little shy and liberated at the same time.
Beautiful. And, on the reverse end, like if you're not feeling that kind of thing and you're like, okay, something's happening in my body, so I'm not feeling good, then your sound might be something completely different, like blah, blah. Right? But it's like, that's the thing, is getting over the idea of I have to sound good to get stuff out. You can actually use sound in your voice as a tool to transmute energies.
Yeah, that's so interesting. That what it brings up is something I like to talk about a lot, and it's about those stories that we have that truly limit us. And even what came up with me, about I felt a little embarrassed. Well, what does that story show? Oh, expressing in that way and being like maybe silly or just like liberated and doing these things. It's like, that's not as socially acceptable maybe. Or how am I going to look? Or what does that mean? And it's so interesting to go through these practices and to notice what's coming up, and then, like pushing them out through sound. And what I feel like, if I'm going to implement this in my life, I would also take the intention of like, okay, this energy is being infused into this sound, and I'm releasing it into the world for it to be transmuted. Mm-hmm. That's so cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's something you said just in the beginning of what you're speaking. Oh, so really, it's what I hear from you is the kind of core thing that you're expressing is around caring what other people think, essentially, right? Which is so common for so many people, and that really blocks the actual expression. So it's like when we can start to remove those pieces and move into, that's where the empowerment lives, is like really connecting to you, your heart, your expression, what feels true and authentic for you. And then when you do that, you actually give other people the ability to be that more.
Wow. I'm going to share a story with you. I've always been a sunshine. I've always been totally outgoing, confident, never shy. And I've just been like this since I was a kid. And yet I was going to audition for a musical. I think I maybe was 7 years old. And I was dancing around my kitchen singing the song Achy Breaky Heart. And you can't really sing that well. Like you just, it's kind of like a achy breaky. And I remember my grandma, who is my best friend and pretty much like my mom, she's like, Sam, I love you so much and you do not have a good singing voice. Like you should not sing. And I remember feeling the dagger that my grandma stabbed into me without knowing. Just saying like, oh, you have a horrible singing voice in such a nice way. And yet I remember saying, I will never sing again. And I did not sing again until last week, where I was really playing with these limitations and these old stories and these old ways. And so I decided to put my feet in the ocean at Punta Mona and sing into the ocean. And doing that, I cried and it felt so liberating. And I was able to forgive my grandma for something she had no clue that she did. And I took ownership over continuing and perpetuating that story and blocking myself off from the pleasure.
Yes.
The pleasure of singing. And this week I've sang all week alongside of you, and it's been really, really great.
Yay. I'm so happy to hear that. I really just want to acknowledge you for being able to recognize that and see that and kind of start to unravel that. And that's really it. It's letting go of, all the stories that somebody once said, or maybe we're even telling ourselves, and really identifying whose voice is that.
Yeah.
And unraveling it. And that's where a lot of times when I go into the work, I also infuse in the hypnotherapy, which is working with the subconscious mind, which is where all the belief systems live. So we get to take away the pieces that are no longer serving us.
Wow, that's huge. Something that you mentioned, and I feel is really true. I've seen it, I've lived it for myself in different ceremonies. A past life for me, and I believe many of us, especially women, is the one of the witch. I do remember through downloads living as a witch and being burned at the stake for sharing my truth. And even now being, I worked 10 years as a naturopathic practitioner and sharing about holistic wellness, being crucified for some of the beliefs that I hold around the practices in holistic medicine. And so it's interesting because I imagine, because it's true for me, I imagine that a lot of people have maybe been crucified and still feel that energy, that ancestrally DNA encoded energy of it is not safe to speak. It is not safe for me to express my thoughts and my feelings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. That's so common. And that's why it's such an incredible time that we're in now, because it is the reclamation of our voices and the liberation and the freedom. And we can feel safe to share and to express and to be who we truly are. So we're in amazing times.
I'd love to know, talking about stories, what's your story? Like, how did you come out of the womb singing? Has this always been a thing? Like, how did you recognize that this was a need? Yeah, I'd love to just hear a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, so I remember being 5 years old, singing my first solo on stage and holding the microphone and just feeling so connected and dropped in. And I had this moment of being like, oh yeah, I remember why I came. Wow. To sing and to let my creative abilities come to life. So my whole life I really followed that knowing. So, I sang in choirs, and then I picked up guitar, and then I started songwriting, and then I traveled professionally, and and then I released my first album. And so it's just been a journey where I've just continually expanding in. And along with that, in the same token, the knowing has been really strong for me. And also I've went through insane, amounts of doubt in myself, doubt in my ability, doubt in my timeline. Like, oh my God, if I'm not doing this by the time I'm 18, then I'm failing, So for me, it's been a big journey too of unraveling all those pieces and really stepping into my own empowerment around it.
That's a great question. What does empowerment mean to you? What does it feel like? What is, when people say, oh, we're in a time of empowerment and empowered leadership, I'm even giving a talk about that tomorrow. Like, I would love to know, what does that mean for you to be empowered?
Yeah, I feel like confidence is really the root of that. And the confidence comes from knowing and being connected to who you are.
That's so fun. The episode right before you were talking about knowing who you are. And what I've experienced in my practice has been a lot of my clients and the coaches I work with come with a major anxiety of, I don't know who I am. I don't know what I like. I don't know what I want to do. I don't know why I'm here. I don't know, like that, all this anxiety because there's so much pressure, especially now as, the new paradigm and light workers, and we're all stepping into our mission. And it's like, if you don't feel that, there's so much fear around that. And so I love asking, well, if I don't know, how can I be more curious? Rather than needing to know answers, how can I ask better questions? And so what could I try? What could I experiment with? How do I want to feel?
Absolutely.
Rather than what do I want to do, because those are just details. How do I want to feel? Who do I want to become? And what do I get to do in the world from that new place of being?
Absolutely.
That's a whole different question that opens up the possibilities for so many more answers than just, why am I here? That one little singular, super centralized answer.
Yes. And I really love that you brought up the feeling, right? What do I want to feel? Because if, anyone that's listening is going to receive anything about, okay, where do I start with this, right?
Yeah.
It's follow the feeling. So you sing because it feels good. So one way you can drop out of the mind and really tune into yourself is listen to what feels good. What kind of style, loud or soft, and even invite in, okay, what do I want to feel today? Do I want to feel beauty and grace? Do I want to feel confident and empowered? And when you emit and emote and sing, allowing yourself to really bring in that energetic, and that's how it can really shift and shape our reality.
Yeah, I love that because, a lot of philosophies, especially Vedic philosophy, believes that the universe originated by sound, right? The original Om. And Om, that was probably the first sounds that I really started to play with when I was playing with using my voice, because it didn't feel comfortable to sing, especially not words or songs. Even different melodies felt really uncomfortable, but I could take a deep breath and Om and play with the different tones and feel the reverberation in my body and anchor in a feeling. And sometimes it was like deep and masculine, and sometimes it was really like light and feminine. And I feel like that was a really fun starting point.
Yeah, I love that. See, you're doing really well.
Thank
you. You're in the exploration of it, and that's exactly it, is exploring, and it's feeling your own vibration. And this is, something that I just love to guide and steward people into, is understanding the power and ability they have to really heal and align their body and their life and be a creatrix or a creator, co-creator in their life through their voice. So yeah, feeling the vibration, knowing you can move it in your body, using it to manifest and create. It's a beautiful thing.
I love that. So we have a couple more minutes. I would love to ask you some rapid fire questions.
Great.
But before I do that, I'd like to know, is there a question that you would really like to be asked?
Those who choose to participate in that flag and fly that flag.
Nothing's really coming to me. Yeah, I'm just enjoying the natural kind of dialogue we're having.
Okay, perfect. I love that. So for anyone listening, somebody listening that's really feeling trapped in their bodies, they're like really feeling shy and nervous and contained and oppressed, what's a golden nugget? What's something that they can do right now to start to that liberation process?
Yeah, so really it's just about letting yourself play. Letting yourself play.
Yeah.
Be in a discovery process with your voice and practice. It's really like yoga, right? People show up to yoga as a practice. How am I connecting and relating to my body when I'm in this space on the mat? So it's the same thing when we come to the voice. How am I showing up? So then having that mindfulness when you sing, noticing when that critical mind comes in and starts to judge or condemn or say things that don't feel good, right? So letting yourself move into a place of play and discovery, and then from there, depending on what the goals are, going into technical training can be very helpful, because then you can have someone guiding you, giving you tools and tips and techniques, and then you get to really build more confidence because you're training your voice, which is a muscle. So just like we work out our bodies, it's the same thing with our voice. So, but starting with the play for sure.
Okay. Yeah, that's really fun. I'm trying to think of how can I play more with that? How can I maybe, like sit in front of a mirror and like play and see myself and get comfortable watching myself? Or how can I step into the ocean or join some circles where I'm singing more?
Yeah, and I love that you brought up the ocean because one of the practices that I like to offer my clients is connecting in with the elements because nature has so much wisdom to share. And so when we allow ourselves to get quiet and really listen, what is the ocean speaking to you? What are the trees speaking to you? And then allowing those sounds to come through. And it might be words and it might be sounds, but really allowing yourself to receive. And that's how you begin to open your channel to receiving in the connection of all life around you.
Oh, I love that. Would you say that my first question was going to be, would you say that singing is more offering, more reception? Is it more masculine? Is it more feminine? But then I realized that the question is, I believe it's both. And how would you, I would love to ask you to talk a little bit about the different energies. Like how do you bring in a masculine energy and then bring in a feminine energy and the difference and the oscillation or the balance, embodying those different energies as you're singing?
Yeah, I love that. I've never had that question before, and it's interesting to think about, the masculine and the feminine. So now we're creating these two different parts of it, right? So I wouldn't say one is more than the other. Really, what it boils down to is feeling. So whatever that means to you, right? And both men and both women, when you sing, it comes from the feeling, which comes from the heart, which comes from the extension of the soul. Did that answer your question?
Yeah,
Okay.
It did. Okay, so a couple questions before we finish off. I'm going to just think what comes off the top of my head. If you had to choose one element, what would you choose?
Water.
Why?
It's soothing. And I love how it flows. And the sound of water, ocean, of rain, of trickling. And I like to actually use the element of water when I sing. And sometimes I call in fire. So that can be something too that can be really, really fun for, you and all the listeners to work with, is also using the elements of to allow that to fuel you. So when I'm singing with, water element, it's a lot more soothing. When I'm singing with a fire element, it's a lot more punching, right? Like explosive. So that's a fun thing to do as well.
Cool. When you sing, do you feel song is associated to any colors?
I receive different colors depending on the energy of the song.
Okay, cool. If you could only sing one song, like if this is like you came to Earth to share one song with the world, do you know what it would be?
Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Listen to your heart and follow. Listen to your heart and follow. Listen to your heart and follow.
I'm really glad that I asked you that. Yeah. So I always love to leave people with an invitation, and my invitation through you would be to do exactly that, to listen to your heart and follow, to really tune into your genius, to your brilliance, to your gifts, to your magic, and to allow yourself to share that with the world. And whether that be through song, through dance, through music, whatever it might be, through even just speaking, to really share that with the world. And yeah, to give yourself permission to be all that you are, and to step into that greatness, and to cultivate the freedom culture within, to share that without. And if you have any other questions, or you're really ready to dive in and activate your voice and liberate yourself and share your song with the world, how can people get in touch with you, Larisa?
Yeah, so I'm all over online, but my website is a great place where you can see more about my offerings and the program. So it's Larisagoslamusic.com, LARISA Gosla music.com.
Thank you so much. It has been such a pleasure listening to you, absorbing your magic, and just getting to be in your presence, your true gift. So thank you so very much.
Thank you. And I'm excited to see where your vocal journey takes you.
I'm going to start off with just mms and then go from there. Maybe we'll do a session together. Ooh.
Do you want to be brave right now?
The true answer is no, I do not want to be brave. And I would be willing to accept a quest of bravery.
I'm going to offer you a quest of bravery.
Okay.
So, if you were to sing one nugget of wisdom to your audience and our listeners right here, what would that be?
Such a good question. Ooh, I'm feeling a blockage because I'm nervous.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm also feeling a blockage because of time. Let me anchor into this. Okay. We're going to edit out this time because I don't know what I'm going to say. The only thing that I can really think of is just, you are so beautiful. And that's it.
Beautiful. Yes. Thank you. So this was such a thank you for offering or for allowing my invitation to step into bravery, because you just really got to show our listeners what it takes. And I just want to tell everybody out there, if you're just starting on the vocal journey and you are scared, it does require some courage. So invite that in, call in that courage, call in that bravery, so that you can really allow yourself to be the fullest of who you are. So thank you for embodying that and being that for our listeners. I really honor and appreciate that.
Thank you so much for calling me forth. You're amazing. I appreciate you. And thank you so, so, so very much for making the time to just share in this kind of way.
Thank you for having me here.
Love, love, love.
Love.